The Battle of Tudela saw an Imperial French army led by Marshal Jean Lannes attack a Spanish army under General Castanos. The battle resulted in the complete victory of the Imperial forces over their adversaries. The combat occurred near Tudela in Navarre, Spain during the Peninsular War, part of a wider conflict known as the Napoleonic Wars. Spanish casualties were estimated to be about 4,000 dead and 3,000 prisoners out of a total force of 33,000. The French and Poles lost no more than 600 dead and wounded out of a total of 30,000. This is one of the battles whose name was engraved on the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. Historical context: the Dos de Mayo uprising of 2 May 1808, followed by extensive uprisings throughout Spain, forced the French to pull back from their occupation of Spain to the Ebro River. There was an opportunity for the Spanish to finally expel the French altogether, but this was missed due to their failure to appoint a supreme commander, leaving the individual Spanish forces to operate independently. These Spanish forces consisted of the army of General Joaquin Blake on the north coast, the army of General Francisco Javier Castanos around Tudela, and the army of General José Reboledo de Palafox around Zaragoza. Blake was active in attacking the French, but his offensive near Bilbao was defeated at Pancorbo on 31 October 1808. Napoleon's strategy was to make a strong attack towards Burgos, splitting off the army of Blake from the others and to outflank them by then swinging both north and south. It was in his interest that the Spanish maintain their exposed advanced positions. The French armies facing them were therefore ordered not to attack. So from October to the 21st of November 1808, Marshal Bon Adrien Ginot de Moncey's Third Corps remained static in front of Castanos's army. The Spanish armies were, however, in a constant state of movement to no effect. For much of the time Castanos was ill, leaving Palafox to direct operations. Palafox seems to have been indecisive on what course of action to take. The battlefield. The battlefield was the area between Tudela and the neighboring hills on the left. The Spanish front was deployed on the hills of Santa Barbara, Tudela, Tormont Real, Santa Quiteria, the top of Cabazo Maya, and the villages of Urgent, Merchant, and Cascanta. Separating the Spanish and the French was the Quilles River, a tributary of the Ebro. The French advanced from the Siedlce hills that were in front of the Spanish lines towards the Spanish troops. Chronology of the battle. Preliminaries. On 21 November 1808, Castanos was around Calahorra on the Ebro between Logrono and Tudela. On this day the French Third Corps crossed the Ebro at Logrono and headed east towards Calahorra, while at the same time Marshal Michel Ney with the VI Corps reached the upper Douro Valley and headed towards Tudela. These movements threatened Castanos with entrapment between these two armies. To avoid this, Castanos withdrew to Tudela. He decided to defend a line 17 kilometers long stretching west from Tudela along the Ebro, then along the Quilles River to Cascanta and finally to Tarazona at the foot of the Moncayo Massif. Castanos had insufficient men to hold a line of this length, so he asked General Juan O'Neill, who had two divisions at Caporoso on the east bank of the Ebro, for help. As O'Neill was under the command of Palafox, he refused to move without an order from Palafox. This did not arrive until noon on the 22nd of November 1808. O'Neill moved promptly to the east bank of the Ebro opposite Tudela, but decided not to cross the river until the next day. By nightfall on the 22nd of November 1808, Castanos had almost 45,000 soldiers in the vicinity of Tudela, but very few of them actually in position. Castanos placed General Manuel La Pina's 4th Division of 8,000 men, mostly Andalusians who had participated in the Battle of Bailen, at Cascanta and General Grimarist at the head of 3 divisions totaling 13,000 to 14,000 soldiers at Tarazona. General Roca's division was on the east bank of the Ebro plus the 2 divisions from Aragon of O'Neill and Felipe Augusto de Saint-Marc. Most of the fighting in the Battle of Tudela would involve only the 3 divisions of Roca, O'Neill, and Saint-Marc, totaling about 23,000 infantry. For the French, only the 3rd Corps was involved in the Battle of Tudela. Prior to the 22nd of November 1808, this force had been commanded by Marshal Moncey. However, Napoleon transferred command to Marshal Jean Lannes when the advance began. This corps was just under 34,000 men, consisting of 4 infantry divisions and 3 cavalry regiments. To this was added General of Division Joseph Lagrange's infantry division and General of Brigade Pierre-David de Colbert-Chabannes's cavalry brigade. From Nice Corps. On the night of the 22nd of November, the French army camped at Alfaro, 17 kilometers up the Ebro from Tudela. The battle, the 23rd of November 1808. On the morning of the 23rd of November 1808, Lagrange's infantry and 2 cavalry brigades were sent towards Cascanta. The rest of the force was sent along the Ebro towards Tudela. At this time, O'Neill was trying to get his 3 divisions across the Ebro. Roca's was across first and reached its position on the right of the Spanish line just as the French attacked. St. Marc's division was second across and also took up position before the attack. By the time O'Neill's own division was crossing, it had to fight French skirmishers who were at the top of the Cabazomala Ridge. The initial French attack was carried out in a piecemeal fashion by the vanguard when it was realized that the Spanish were not in position. Although this attack was repelled, it showed the weakness of the Spanish positions, especially the 5 kilometers gap between Castanos and La Peña's force at Cascanta. The battle would ultimately be decided by La Peña and Grimarist. By noon on the 23rd of November 1808, they had received orders to move La Peña to close the gap at Tudela and Grimarist to Cascanta. Both men failed to carry out these orders, other than La Peña moving 2 battalions and a detachment of provincial grenadiers to Argent. The second French attack was made with much greater force. On the French left, General of Division Antoine Morlot's division attacked Roca's division on the heights above Tudela. On the French right, General of Division Maurice Mathieu's division made a frontal assault on the smaller O'Neill division while also making outflanking moves. The attacks on both left and right were successful, with both Spanish divisions being pushed off the ridges they occupied. Then the French cavalry under General of Division Charles Lefebvre Desnoets charged the gap between Roca and Saint-Marc, causing the collapse of the Spanish right. La Peña and Grimarist finally united at Cascanta late in the day, giving them a total of 21,000 men against Lagrange's division, which was 6,000 strong, plus Colbert and Dijon. After the defeat of the rest of the Spanish army, however, La Peña and Grimarist withdrew after dark. Their poor performance was also reflected in the casualties of only 200 on the Spanish left compared to 3,000 on the right, plus 1,000 prisoners. Aftermath: the Spanish armies of the left and right escaped from Tudela in 2 directions. The Aragonese forces on the right made for Zaragoza, where they would assist in the second siege of Zaragoza starting on the 20th of December 1808. The virtually intact Spanish left moved towards Madrid to defend that city. Napoleon, however, moved more quickly, and after defeating a small Spanish army at the Battle of Somosierra on the 30th of November 1808, arrived in Madrid on the 1st of December 1808. Napoleon's strategy ultimately ended in total success with Madrid in his hands. He was then able to prepare for the reconquest of Portugal. Other reading: History of the Peninsular War, Volume 1. 1807 to 1809, from the Treaty of Fontainebleau to the Battle of Corunna, of Charles Oman, 704 pages, paperback, Greenhill Books, new edition 2004. English, ISBN 9781853675881. The first volume of Oman's classic 7-volume History of the Peninsular War. This is one of the classic works of military history and provides an invaluable detailed narrative of the fighting in Spain and Portugal. This first volume covers the initial French intervention, the start of the Spanish uprising, the early British involvement in Spain and Portugal, and Napoleon's own brief visit to Spain. The Spanish Ulcer, A History of the Peninsular War, David Gates, Pimlico NW edition 2002, 592 pages, hardcover, English, ISBN 9780712697309. An excellent single-volume History of the Peninsular War, which, when it was published, was the first really good English-language history of the entire war since Oman. This is a well-balanced work with detailed coverage of those campaigns conducted entirely by Spanish armies, as well as the better-known British intervention in Portugal and Spain.